Hi, everybody. Welcome to the We Need a Vacation office hour. I am Carrie Hillman. I'm on the homeowner support team here at We Need a Vacation, and I also rent my home that's in Orleans. And Sarah De Silva is joining me today. She'll be running the chat for us. Um, this is the second to last of our virtual office hours. So we'll have one more virtual webinar. That's our final big finale with our COO, Jim Reese. And he will be talking about the state of the state. And he's going to break down some data and stats from the 2026 season. So keep an eye out for that coming end of May, beginning of June sometime. You'll be getting a email with that information for the date of that and the sign up. And then today, the way this will work is we'll go through the presentation, and then you can feel free to pop any questions into the chat box. Sarah will be running the chat, and she'll either answer your question there or we'll save it and someone will follow up with you after. And then just remember the rules for the chat. We are a community, so make sure you're supportive and kind. Um, and then Yeah. Okay, great. So again, today we are going to be talking about the five-star strategy. So this is how to secure bookings and get rave reviews for your listings. So we'll do a little overview here. So this is what we'll be discussing today. First, we'll be talking about vetting your guests. So don't be afraid to say no if it's not the right fit for you. And we got to make sure that we ask all the right questions to get to know the guest. And then we'll talk a little bit about pre-arrival and arrival with your guests and how to be communicating effectively. Then we'll move on to keeping your guests happy during their stay, and then how to ask for the review at the end of the stay. So making sure you're available and responsive during their stay, and then really remembering to do the ask for the review at the end of the stay. And then the final part, we will go over our review policies and process. So we'll do a little overview of kind of our internal guidelines and approval process. So here we go. So the first step in all of this is your vetting process with your guests. So they've sent an inquiry to your listing, and then you want to work on figuring out who they are and if they're going to be a good fit for your house. So this starts with we recommend a phone call with your potential guests. So even just 5 minutes, and you can learn so much about the guests and what they're planning to do on their vacation. And if you don't want to have a phone call, that's okay. Just make sure you have a really good, effective email or text communication back and forth with the guests to get to know them. And this would all be happening before you send the rental agreement. So some ways to do this are, on the phone call, you can ask these questions, or if you're emailing, you can ask these questions. So you can ask, what brings you to the Cape? Or tell me a little bit more about your group. So these kind of open up the conversation just to get the conversation moving with your guest, to get to know them and what their plans are. If they have children in their group, you can ask how old are the kids. You can ask them if they're planning to bring pets with them, if you allow pets in your home. And, if they tell you that yes, they are, you can feel free to follow up and ask, what kind of pet, what size dog, breed or whatever, to get to know them a little bit more. And people usually love talking about their pets, and they brag about how wonderful their rescue dog is that's been with their family for 5 years or whatever. So definitely, get to know them and get to know their pets. And then, throughout this conversation, you want to be sure that you're being honest about your home's best attributes and also the shortcomings to make sure that your house will be a good fit with your guests. So, for example, at my house, we have a fenced in backyard, and it's really great for pets and small children. And I love to tell people that. But our house is also on a busy road. We're right on 28. So, if your dog loves to try to escape out of a fence, or sneak under a gap in the fence, our house really might not be a great fit for your family because you don't want to be worried about your dog the whole time. Or maybe you keep your pup on a leash all the time, and so it's going to be fine. You don't have to worry about it. So, just making sure you're talking about these things with your guests and making sure they think it's a good fit and you think they're a good fit. And then, lastly, here, you don't want to compromise this vetting process for a last minute booking. So, even you've got a week left in July, say, and you've put up a last minute alert, you've run an owner special, you're trying to get that last week booked, and someone calls you the week before and they say, yeah, I really want to book this. Go through the whole vetting process with them. Make sure you get to know them. Make sure you do the phone call or have the effective communications back and forth. Don't just rush right into it and send off the rental agreement. What you can do is do other things to make sure that you can get the rental agreement back quickly and get the payment quickly. So do online um, lease agreement signature and then online payments. So that will help speed that up. But don't compromise your vetting process if you're trying to get someone in last minute, because it's still important to make sure they're a good fit, even if you feel anxious to book that week. The last thing you want is someone who's not a good fit in there, who rushed into the booking, and then it's going to give you lots of headaches later on down the road. So, okay, moving on here. So all of this vetting process is setting the foundation for your relationship with the guest. Okay, so you're really communicating with them, you're setting a foundation, you're building a relationship. This is not just a transactional interaction. This is not someone inquires and you send them the rental agreement without getting to know them. You really want to get to know this vacationer, get to know their group, learn more about their plans. When you're getting to know the group, is it kids? Is it adults? Is it older adults? And then what their plans are. And of course, this is all casual, what their plans are. You're not asking for their itinerary or anything, but just generally what they're doing. Are they coming down for a bachelorette party? Are they coming down for a family reunion? Are they coming for a celebration of life? Like, these are very different reasons to come to Cape Cod or the islands, but it's important that you know this so that you can interact with them properly during their stay. Um, and then as you're doing this back and forth and building this foundation with them, make sure that you're taking a little extra time when you're responding to them initially. So make sure that, even if you're rushed or busy, you probably work a regular day job and then you do this rental business on the side. So even if you're at work or at the grocery store, take some time to respond to them thoughtfully instead of just rushing off a response. If you send a curt or a short email, it can get you off to a bad start. And one way to help with this is you can create templates. So again, this is something that can really help help you have a thoughtful response, as if you're using the templates, and that's in the homeowner center. You just go to templates and you can create a template that can be used to respond to the inquiries. And if you have any questions about how to do that, just give our office a call or look on our help page. We'd be happy to help you with that. So, okay, so we're going to do a quick little activity here. If anybody wants to pop this into the chat. So if you can share, what is one question that you ask vacationers to get this conversation going? And Sarah, if anybody puts anything in that you want to share out with the rest of us, that's great. So put your question in the chat if you have one that you ask vacationers, and feel free to borrow ideas from other owners. The question that I typically start with is just very simple. What brings your group to Orleans this year? And have you been to Orleans before? It's just like a small question, but it can open a floodgate of conversation because, yes, if they've been to Orleans, they will tell you how they've been coming to Orleans since they were a baby and their whole family joins them there every year. And, you've heard it all from vacationers. But Sarah, is there anything else that's popped into the chat there?
So Kathy asked like what you say, have you been to Wellfleet before? So she makes it specific to the area of her home. And then Carrie said, we ask what they need in the house to help your vacation, to help make your vacation even better, especially with children's needs. And
Hmm.
that's great. I know you bring that up a lot too, Carrie.
Yeah, that's a huge one, especially if you are willing to help them out or you have stuff in storage or in the garage that you can pull out for the kids of different ages. And it's just so helpful to parents to not have to pack. And this is also an interesting point here is if it's the grandparents that are booking the home, this happens a lot, and then they are bringing their children who are bringing their young children with them. Um, Try to get a message to the moms of the young children so that they can tell you what they need or what would be helpful or ask you questions about what you already have at the house. And that can go a long way too. Because when the vacation is over, it doesn't necessarily have to be the person who booked the place that leaves the review. If you've been communicating with another one of the members of the rental party, you can directly ask them to put the review in for you. So if you end up talking to one of the moms and you're really helping them out, that can be a great angle to reach out for the review. Anything else, Sarah, that we should mention before we go on? No? Okay, great. Awesome. Okay, so next we're going to talk about pre-arrival and arrival. So again, you are continuing to build this relationship with your guests, and you never want to let your guard down and just forget about them. Make sure you're always paying attention and continuing to build this relationship. Because ultimately, in the end, you build, 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 and then it's for the review is the final step. So, so basically, your first interaction is that you get the inquiry, and then after the inquiry and the lease agreement are signed, that's when you want to provide a timeline for these guests. So basically, most owners do the inquiry process the same. They receive an inquiry and very quickly they're interacting with the guest and then the lease is getting signed. And then after that, it can really vary. So, each homeowner does this process a little bit differently, but you just want to provide a timeline so you can set expectations with the guests so they know when to expect things to be happening. So maybe the final payment is going to be due 2 months before your guests arrive. And then maybe you're going to send the welcome packet 1 month before your guests arrive. And you'll let them know that the key code to the house is going to become active on their day of arrival at 3 p.m., which is when check-in begins. So just making sure that even all these little small directions, let them know what to expect when they're, in this process before they arrive at your house. And the welcome packet can actually have a lot of details in it to let them know what to expect as well. But you want to make sure that they know that welcome packet is coming so that they're not just asking you 100 questions before their arrival, that they have all the information succinctly put into one document there. Okay, and then guest arrival. So again, you're continuing to build this relationship with them and making sure that you are very available for communication on their day of arrival. So when they're getting to your home, you want to be delighting your guests at check-in. So the first piece to delighting them is that your home is exceptionally clean for every stay. So you want to make sure you have really excellent cleaners. So much relies on your cleaners for the first impression, and also for a lasting impression throughout the whole stay. If they continue to move around through the house and everywhere they go is super clean, that really is very important to guests. The last thing you want is for guests to enter into the house and not feel like it's very clean. So with your cleaners, you want to make sure you're paying them well, tipping them well, and you can make your expectations very clear. So if you ever get a complaint from a guest that something's not cleaned the way that you want it to be, feel free to reach out and of course, a kind way and a communicative way to your cleaners, but let them know what you want to be done, and how you want it to be. So, other first impressions when the guest arrives, you can leave a welcome gift. And the welcome gift could be, something small like a bag of Cape Cod chips or a bottle of wine. If you leave a handwritten welcome note, that's always really nice too. And it can be specifically tailored towards each guest if you're able to do that. Or if you're not on Cape and able to leave a note, you can, just write a generic something, welcome to our home, and leave it with each little welcome gift that you have the cleaners leave out on the table for you. And then you can provide activities for grown-ups or kids, just other things that are going to surprise and delight them. So even a couple fresh sand shovels or buckets for the beach, that can be awesome. I mean, every kid loves a new bucket. And then a fresh pack of s'mores fixings if you have a fire pit, that can also be really fun for kids or adults. Um, and then again, communicating with the guest upon arrival. So be available on the day of check-in for a text or a call, and specifically at the time of check-in as well. Be super vigilant. For example, don't go to Race Point Beach with no cell reception right during their check-in time, because they could send you a message like, "Oh, I forgot what the key code is," or the lock doesn't seem to be working, and you can help them navigate how to get into the home. Or, maybe an issue comes up and they need to get in touch with you. Um, so you want to make sure that you address any reported issues immediately. So if they mention something like, "Oh, it's not very clean," get your cleaners back over there. Or if they can't figure out how to get the AC working, help, step them through the process of how to use your thermostat. And if there is an issue, get in touch with your HVAC people right away, and then let your vacationers know that you're working on it. So that actually brings us to the next slide as well, which is keeping your guests happy during their stay. So, you want to do your best to keep your guests happy. Again, staying alert. Don't just have them check in and then forget about them. Um, you want to make sure that you're checking in on them while they're in your house. So definitely send them a text message on the first day that they're there and just say, "Hey, I just want to make sure you got in okay," and that everything, is good to go for you guys. And if there is a problem, you want to be leaning on your support team. So you should have a plumber, a handyman, an HVAC person. So this is your AC and your heating needs, pest control and lawn care and irrigation people that are available and ready to help if you need them. So, like, especially things like a plumber you might not use all the time, make sure you have a plumber that you're contracted with that has done some work at your house, is familiar with your home. And if an issue comes up, they can get right over there and help. And same with the HVAC. So make sure you get your air conditioning tuned up each year. Have someone get over there in the spring when it starts to warm up and test to make sure that the air conditioning is working. And then if a problem arises while in the middle of the summer during a heat wave, you're already on this contractor's list, and so you've already had them do work with you in the past, so they're much more likely to be able to make it over to your house to address the situation in the middle of the summer. And if a situation does arise, try to diffuse the situation. Okay, so you're conveying that what's important to your guest is important to you. You want to make them happy, and you're going to set your expectations about their expectations about what you're doing to deal with the situation. So let's say maybe the dryer breaks. Okay, so you let your vacationer know, "I've called Crane Appliance. The repairman's going to be there on Tuesday. If they're able to fix it that day, they will. And if not, they may have to order a part, which would mean it would be a few more days for the part to arrive, and then they'll come back and install the part. So in the meantime, I'm happy to give you a gift card for dinner or for ice cream, a little something to placate them in the meantime. And then, think creatively. So if it is a dryer situation, try to go above and beyond. So maybe bring them a fresh stack of towels and bath towels and beach towels, or maybe bring them a drying rack. Bring them some quarters for the laundromat and let them know where the closest laundromat is or where the best laundromat is in your area. Because, some are nicer than others, and they're not familiar with your area. So it might be helpful to them if you can help them figure that out. Just kind of generally trying to smooth things over and show them that you're paying attention, you're being attentive. And then moving on to when to charge people for something that breaks and when to not charge. So generally, you want to try to have extra things on hand that you're not charging them for. So like if somebody mentions that they broke a wine glass or a plate, you want to have extras of those on hand that you can replace after they've left. And then those small things you're probably not going to be charging a vacationer for. And same with any minor repairs, minor things that got broken. If a kid kicks out the screen of the sliding door, that's really easy for a handyman to come back and repair, or for you to repair if you're on Cape. And it really doesn't cost that much to repair that. And also wear and tear issues. So if something has been kind of worn down by vacationer after vacationer after vacationer, and then it finally breaks on this one group, yeah, that's not something you're going to be charging them for. So you just want to be careful um, with issues that arise, things that break, making sure that you're appropriately charging or deducting their security deposit if it's something that is really obvious and clear that it was their fault. So, for example, I had a guest message me once that she said her son was supposed to be napping, but instead he was playing with the blind in the bedroom, and so he broke a piece of the blind off. And she said, I'm so sorry that happened. I thought he was sleeping, but I'd be happy to pay for it. Please take it out of my security deposit. So things like that, very clear cut situation where then you can take that out of the security deposit. And then, that just continues to build the trust with the vacationer and keep them happy. If you're taking things out of the security deposit without letting them know or without it being discussed and without them being prepared for it, that can really break down the trust and then lead to a negative review in the end. Okay, so now we are getting to the ask. So this is about asking for the review. So you do have control over who you ask for a review from. We do not send out automatically requests for reviews, but any guest does have the ability to leave a review on your listing. It's just right on the main listing. They can click leave a review. But we do recommend that you follow up right away on their day of departure. So maybe right after the house has been checked. If you've been texting with this guest, you can say something like, thanks so much for leaving the house so clean. We really appreciate it. You can ask them, what's the best method for me to send your security deposit back? Because maybe their daughter sent it by Venmo, and you just want to make sure that you send it by Venmo to the correct person, or maybe, they want you to send it to a different person, the rental party. And then you can say, in the meantime, if I send you the link, would you be willing to leave a review for our home? And then you can send this link here is this goes to one specific property, but if you just replace this number at the end here, that can go directly to your property. So you can text that link to them, or you can use that link to create your own QR code. There are so many ways to create a free QR code these days on the internet. Just go ahead and make one of those, and then you can send the QR code to them. And if you're not texting with the guest and you're doing email, you can also send an email template to them that requests the review. And so you basically just go to our homeowner center, and then you go to guest reviews, and right in there, there's a pre-made email that you can send off to them. And again, we recommend sending it as soon as possible after their departure, so everything's fresh in their minds. I mean, sometimes people are actually filling it out. If they're the passenger and someone else is driving, they can just fill out the review while they're driving home. It makes it really easy for them. And they're still, glowing from their vacation, or glowing from their sunburn maybe. But and then you can follow up in a day or two if you haven't heard back, if you've emailed them. And we do have a handy little checkbox that you can check off that says send an automatic email reminder. And that can make it really easy. If the vacation does not submit a review through our system, we'll go ahead and send them a little reminder to get that review in. And then a little more detail on the request template. So again, we have a sample starter template for you to use to request the review, but we really do recommend that you craft your review to work for you and be very specific to your home, making it personal. You can also run it through AI to get some fresh ideas if you want. And if you need help doing that, feel free to give our office a call. And then the cool thing is that you can actually tailor it to each guest. So when you're in the homeowner center under guest reviews, you can plunk your template in there, but then you can edit it a little bit before you send it off. So usually I just make the first line be something very personal to the guest, like maybe the grandmother reported to me that her grandchild had an excellent time jumping in the waves at Nauset Beach with the boogie boards or whatever. And I'll say, oh, it's so great that Jack had a great time with the boogie boards. And then, move on to the rest of the template. But just having that one little reminder of how much fun they had and something that was very personal can help spur them to leave that guest review. All right. And then another way to do reviews is homeowner entered reviews. So these are reviews that you've pulled either from another listing platform, or maybe you have a welcome book in your home where guests are leaving handwritten notes talking about what a wonderful time they had. And you can go ahead and go into the homeowner center under guest reviews and you can enter those reviews. And they'll be listed as homeowner entered, but I think it's still helpful to enter them. But you can also request that the guest confirm that this is their review. And then if they confirm it, then it lists the review as if it was vacationer entered. So, of all the homeowner entered reviews where the homeowners are requesting that the vacationer confirm their reviews, 70% of those get converted to be shown as vacation reviews. So that's a good percentage of those because it's very easy. All they have to do is click one button in an email. So it's super easy for them to do it. And then of those converted reviews, 66% of those vacationers are leaving a star rating. I don't know if this is a little bit small here, but basically they get to this screen. It says your guest review has been confirmed. They can select the number of stars they want, and then they click this blue button here that says add rating. So then you get a star rating on that review as well, which always helps. All right, so quickly going over our guest review policy and guidelines. First, it's essential to know that guests will be submitting their reviews 90 days after checkout. So this gives them a little time to reflect on their stay. But we do actually encourage them to leave the review right away while it's top of mind. Just get it over with so you don't have to worry about following up with them at a later date or, figuring out when the 90-day window ends. Just try to get it done right away if possible. And all the reviews go through a moderation process. So this means that we ensure that every submitted review meets our guidelines. And then after the moderation, the review will be sent to you, allowing you to respond to it with a owner response if you wish to. And this response is always really helpful for other owners and potential vacationers to see what your communication is like with this guest. And then finally, reviews will be posted within 7 business days. So this timeline helps to keep the feedback process transparent and timely, and making sure that you get some great reviews to enhance your property's visibility. Um, and then Sarah's going to paste a little link in the chat to Google. And if you're interested in writing a review for We Need a Vacation, we would love to have your feedback and input. You can also do a review on Yelp, or you can send a review to support@weneedavacation.com, and we can put that one up on our website. And these reviews are so helpful to building trust with vacationers and potential homeowners. So go ahead, open a Google browser and search for We Need Vacation, and then you can click on the reviews to post up a review for us if you've got time. And okay, and then up next, again, this is a reminder that you will be getting an email at the end of May sometime with the exact date for the Zoom session for the state of the state. So again, this is where our COO, Jim Reese, will break down 2026 season's data and statistics. So that's definitely one you don't want to miss. So be sure to log in for that one. All righty. Okay. Any questions? Anything that came in the chat, Sarah?
Yes, Jackie had a great question. She asked, is it okay to be at the property to welcome your guests and show them around the home?
Okay, that is a really good question. So, it's sort of, it's sort of up to you and how you want to do this and just feel it out, see how the guest feels. Some guests love it. They love to meet you. They love to have you show them around the house. They love to hear specific details about how to work different things in the home. Um, but other guests really just kind of want a little more hands off of an experience, and they just kind of want to show up and let themselves in. So, you could ask the guest if they want you there. If you're dead set on meeting them and you want to just, have a quick conversation when they arrive, I think that's fine. But definitely pay attention to body language and if you're getting the vibes that they just want to get to their vacation, make it quick and, just introduce yourself and show them how to open the door and then let them know where the beach towels are stored or whatever you want to tell them. And then, take off and let them get settled in the house on their own. We have had complaints where, maybe someone is a little too helpful upon check-in, like helping unload the car. I think that's maybe a little too much. You don't need to be doing something like that. But a friendly hi and a wave and welcome to our home. Maybe giving them your text message or your cell phone number. Actually, if they should already have your cell phone number at that point, but reminding them text me if you need anything or give me a call if you need anything is great. But I don't think you need to be there. So if you're not able to, I think it's okay as long as you're checking in with them on the same day of their arrival to make sure everything's going okay. Um, yeah.
Great. Carrie was asking, as she said, we are tailoring our home for everyone, but really focusing on families with young children or older adults. Is there any place on the platform to highlight that?
Okay. So definitely make sure it's in your photos. So if you have a cool playroom or you've got a great swing set in the backyard, or a fire pit or, whatever fun toys like kayaks, boogie boards, any of that kind of stuff. Make sure that that is shown in your photos because people want to see that as that's the first thing they do is they click through the photos. So, makes you catch them right away with some of this fun stuff that you have, like especially if you have kayaks or boats or something like that that they're able to use. Those are huge. And then definitely put it into your description. And then, that can be like a list of items. It could be a blurb that explains how, fun this house is for families. And then you could even specifically ask guests that had children. Maybe you have a guest that stayed with you that just really loved your home and you're asking them to leave a review. You could say something like, would you mind mentioning how the home was for your family and what age your children were or whatever? And then that can be really helpful for incoming guests to see, oh, this family had, a 5 and a 7-year-old, and the house was really well set up for them, or they had a toddler and the house was really well set up for them, whatever the case may be. Um, and then there are some amenities that I think are specific to families, like if there's a fenced in yard or things like that. So make sure you look really closely at the amenities to see if any of those are specific to your home. And then the last thing, I guess, if you really wanted to do this, you could put something in the owner special. So the owner special is like a little light red blurb that goes across your listing. And so as vacationers are scrolling through all the houses in Chatham, they're just kind of looking. Yours has this little banner across it with some sort of alert about something. So it could say, great for families, free kayaks to use, or, some little thing to grab their attention. And I guess that's the same with the title. You can put the fun things into the title, like kayaks, fire pits, outdoor shower, whatever the details are that you want to share.
Thank you. Carrie also asked, my rental home is next door to our main home. should we disclose that we live next door? We have only said we are close by.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, you don't want to I feel like you don't want the vacationer to find out that you live next door and then be like, whoa, that's kind of too close for comfort. Definitely let them know you live next door. And I actually do. Our cottage is right next door to the house that we rent. So I just say to the guests, I say, and our family cottage is just next door. We give you plenty of privacy, but we're close by if you need anything at all during your stay. And just, put it in put a positive spin on it. Don't say like, I'm going to be peering out my window at you, to make sure you're not doing anything bad. But just, let them know that you're nearby if they need help. And you can even say, we spend some of the summer there, so we may or may not be there, or something along those lines. Because, maybe you'll be on vacation in Maine one of the weeks. I don't know. But so I think I think that's an important piece. I think it definitely deters people from wanting to show up to your house to have a big party, for sure, if they know that you're next door. And most people don't care. They're totally fine. They're just happy to be on their vacation. And we've even had people invite us over for a glass of wine, or, one time Sarah and I went clamming actually, and I dropped off some fresh clams to the guest, and they were psyched to have those for dinner. So it can be nice, but, don't overdo it. Don't be knocking on the door or going over to water the plants on the patio when they aren't expecting you. Make sure they have ample privacy.
Wonderful. Those are the only questions we have for now. Well, actually, I will ask your expertise on this just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Um, I was chatting with Kathy about using a platform like DocuSign. And I
Yeah.
mentioned that there was a $10 a month option to make it more cost effective. Also said, there's like a platform like PandaDoc. Any other platforms that you can think of off the top of your head, Carrie, that is a good digital signature platform?
I think Adobe Acrobat has something, and I also want to say, I just saw something that like Google might even have something. I think they're paid services, but definitely search around and see what seems easiest for you to use. The nice thing about DocuSign is that it's a well-known name and brand, and so people trust it, and so they're not hesitant to be, sending the document back and forth using it. And it's really easy for them to use. They get an email, they click on a button, and it brings them through the lease, and it's super easy. Like any of these electronic signature options that you choose makes you send yourself like a fake one, a sample one, so you can see exactly what it's like for someone to use it. And just make sure it's really easy to use, like that you don't want them to have to be like downloading an app and logging in and creating a new login or whatever. And just, make sure it's quick and easy for them to use.
Great. Jean is asking for tips to get off-season rentals.
Okay, so this is a little off topic of the reviews, but that's okay since, we're wrapping up on the reviews. Um, but basically off-season rentals, there's a lot of open availability. A lot of people have weeks available. I mean, of course, some people close down their house for the whole winter, um, but the name of the game in the off season is lower your rate so that you're competitive with your neighbors. So do a search in the town that you live in, see what other people are charging, try to lower your rate as much as you can. Offer discounts for longer stays in the off season. If someone's willing to stay 4 days, 5 days, offer them some kind of discount. Um, and then be very, very quick to respond. So if someone messages you in November and they want to come for Thanksgiving, be very quick to respond because they've probably sent messages to other people. They're probably asking around if they can get a deal. And if you're willing to offer a deal, get it into that inquiry response and send it right back to them, because it's possible you'll be the first one to reply, and then they're going to go ahead and continue to communicate with you. But yeah, basically speed and lowering your rate, I guess, are kind of the tricks. And I guess offering the owner specials as well. So if you're willing to do a weekend, like 2 nights or something like that, put that into the owner special. Or, some people do like a weekend getaway package or something, and they offer a gift card to a restaurant for $50. So that can be just enough to spur them to want to choose your home over somebody else.
Mhm. And offering shorter stays, right? Instead of the
Definitely.
1 day minimum stay during the peak season, allowing that shorter stay so people can come enjoy the weekend.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you're willing to offer 1 or 2 nights or 3 nights, I think most people probably are willing to do 2 nights. 3 nights is kind of a stretch. It means they have to take a long weekend. So if you are willing to do 2 nights, do that, or even one night, and then people can just, pop down from Boston and spend a weekend. And you're gonna set that minimum night stay in the homeowner center under calendar and pricing. It's the very top portion of the calendar and pricing page where you can set summer minimum night stay, and then the off-season minimum night stay is a different cell.
John Michael is asking any legal questions on providing a kayak.
So that is a great question. Definitely check with your attorney to, make sure you've got the right coverage for that. And then there is an addendum to the lease that you can ask us for. And again, you'll want to check with your attorney to make sure that that covers your needs for your specific property and your specific kayaks. Sam, did you want to add anything else since you're our
No, it's a great question, and I think you're saying exactly what I would have said, Carrie. Is we're not attorneys. The best protection you can have is in your lease agreement. As far as you're going to want to talk to an attorney about a release any liability for yourself, and make sure that your lease agreements in general are tailored to your homes as well. So
Yeah, thanks.
yeah.
All right. Any other questions, guys?
You can put them in the chat or feel free to unmute if you want to ask a question.
Jackie said, I have been using the payment reminder alert, but my guest has not responded. I have not received the second payment. What's the best way to remind them?
Well, I guess I would go back through whatever communication method you've been using. So if you've been texting with them, or if you had a phone call with them, or if you've been emailing, go ahead and send a friendly reminder. Just say, we sent out a reminder for the second payment. This is a friendly reminder that was due last week, or it's due coming up in a week, or whatever. And then if you wouldn't mind just letting me know what method you're going to be using to make that payment, I can keep an eye out for it. So sometimes people, for the first payment, they send a check, but the second payment they want to do by Venmo, or, whatever the case may be. So, that can be an easy way to, just politely ask them how they're going to be sending the payment, and then you can make sure you're looking out for it. But, don't be afraid to follow up and ask them. I think it shows that you're paying attention and that you're a good business person if you're, asking for a timely payment. That's totally fine and acceptable.
Wonderful. I don't see any other questions. Oh, well, Jackie said, what if they don't make the second payment?
Okay, so if they don't make the second payment, you're not going to be sending them the check-in information. So hopefully at some point they're going to realize, as they're preparing for their vacation, that they haven't made the second payment and they have not received the check-in information. And definitely you want to be trying to get a hold of them in all different methods of communication if you're not hearing back and they are not making the second payment. within a timely manner. It's one thing if someone says, "Oh, yeah, I'm so sorry, I'll get you that payment within the next week. It's been really super busy for us," and then maybe their payment's a week late. That's not as big a deal because they're communicating with you and you know what to expect. But if you're not hearing anything, then you definitely want to be trying to get a hold of them and figure out what's going on. Because you definitely don't want to end up in a situation where it's getting close to their arrival day and you haven't gotten that second payment yet. And I actually, I personally I haven't ever encountered that. But I imagine there's probably something you could have in the lease where if the second payment is not received, then their lease um, is not active. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly. Again, I would say check with your attorney on the legality of that. Like if you've entered into a lease agreement with someone and they've given you one payment, yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happens when the second payment isn't coming in.
I have an
All right.
experience on that subject.
Oh, yeah.
Um, and actually, the reservation was for next month, but this was a repeat guest from last year, and so this time they're checking in through this site opposed to Verbo. But
Hmm.
anyway, we were communicating like about 4 months in advance, and at some point, I sent them an email letting them know the due date. And in the beginning, I wasn't able to do credit cards. But then when we got down to that area time, I'm saying to myself, well, maybe he doesn't want to use the cash cards. He planned on doing his vacation on credit card. So I
Hmm.
informed him that I'm able to do the credit cards, and I sent him a
Hmm.
link. And the bottom line is he never paid. But when it got to that date that the final date, I think I said him April 1st or something. I sent him a reminder and like a warning that if the payment, wasn't made, that the calendar would automatically open those dates of his dates and available for the public.
Hmm.
So he didn't respond to any of it. But anyway,
Oh,
I
wow.
opened up the dates. But so I just couldn't figure out, what was with this guest. But I gave him all the options. If he did it with Verbo, he would be paying 4 months ago.
Hmm. Right,
Yeah.
right. Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
totally.
I felt that my hands were tied, and I did what I could do.
Yeah, yeah. And on that note, a lot of people do the first payment is upon the execution of the lease agreement, and then the due date of the second payment is within the lease agreement. So hopefully they're seeing that timeline and that they're aware. But yeah, not a good situation to be in. All right. Any last questions before we wrap it up here?
Carol, I will send you an email over with the attorney's name. I'll get that together and send it over to you. I'll send you a separate email. And that is all the questions we have, Carrie.
I actually wanted to ask a question. I realized that my site was set at mute or anyways. Do you get June rentals and September rentals? I've been renting our place for I think 7 years. And if I get any rental in June, it's the last week falling into July.
Hmm.
And September, I don't get any. And it's just such a beautiful time on the Cape. And I was
Right.
wondering if I'm not marketing it. Well, I don't market it at all. I just show it on my calendar. So
Yeah,
what should
yeah.
I do?
Well, I would say definitely do what I recommended earlier, that look at what your neighbors are charging and just see what the vacationers are seeing and what they're comparing you to. and think about maybe lowering your rate. And if you have, specific questions about that, feel free to call our office or send us an email. You can see on the screen it says our office number and our email address. And we can take a look at your specific listing and help you try to figure that out.
Okay. But is it common to have it slow in June and September?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
The June and September are considered the shoulder seasons, and then the high season is July and August. So those are going to be your busiest times, with the end of July and beginning of August being the most busy. And then the shoulder seasons, a lot of people are working full time and their kids are back in school, and they're just not able to take the week-long vacations, even though it's beautiful. But, there are people with toddlers or more flexible work schedules, or they can do work from home during their trip. Those kind of people definitely come in September. So they're out there and they do come to the Cape, but, you have to work a little harder and lower your price maybe to get those bookings.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I jump in with a question? And I'm very late. I'm so sorry.
Sure.
I had a call that went really long. I don't know if you guys already talked about this. I've been renting my Cape property for over 20 years with you guys, also on the platforms. And, we're doing really well. My ongoing challenge, and I don't do same day turnovers anymore, but I do, a day in between, is laundry. I've got a 5-bedroom, 4-bath home. I offer ample, nice quality beach and bath towels. And of course, then there's 7 beds. I had been successful in having my renters help out. But it's at the point where, we're asking top dollar. And not out of the realm of normalcy. It's expensive, as we all know, to run our homes. Everything keeps going up. But what are people doing about the laundry? Obviously, we have second sets of linens. We cannot possibly have second sets of towels and beach towels, because there's just too many. I sleep 10 people, and very often it's a full house. What are people doing? Are they having their cleaning people take the laundry away? Are they charging people for a laundry service? I've stayed away from that up until now. Very often I'll come in and I'll have to do 10 loads of laundry. My cleaning people don't do it. They don't do laundry. And I think that's pretty common, actually.
Yeah. So it is definitely common. Some cleaning people don't do laundry, but some do. And so one piece of that puzzle is you could separate out the beach towels and ask them to run a couple loads of beach towels before they leave, because they're probably not trying to go to the beach the morning that they're leaving, right?
Exactly.
So all the beach towels are done being used on Friday night. Maybe they can run a couple loads and at least get those done. And so, like, for my house personally, I say we just have one set of beach towels. So if you don't mind running those through the wash and dryer, that would be really helpful. And for the most part, people do. Occasionally, there's a few beach towels that end up in the main laundry, but then, there are enough of the beach towels that it's okay if a few get taken out to be laundered and then they get sent back the next week. And then, you can, it's really whatever works best for you as far as the rest of the laundry, right? So if you have multiple sets of laundry, so maybe you have 2 or 3 sets of linens and towels. And then you have your cleaning person, or if your cleaning person doesn't do it, you have someone else come in who specifically does laundry. So I would say reach out to other cleaning companies to see if any of them specifically do laundry. They can come pick that up, wash it, and then bring it back at the next turnover the next week. And if you have multiple sets, you just have to make sure that the vacationers aren't getting into the clean set. So either lock the door to that linen closet, or usually I leave one set in the linen closet. And so the vacationers can use that if they need to change something out or something. But then I have other sets that they don't have access to. They're in a locked room, and the cleaning people are taking those sets out on the turnover day, using that one. They bring the dirty one home with them, and then they bring a clean one back with them each week.
So you have people have second sets. I mean, we're talking like 80 towels.
You have 80 towels? Oh my
Well, I mean,
gosh.
between the beach towels and 4 full bathrooms.
Yeah, okay. So, 80 towels might, I mean, that's a lot of towels. I think guests could handle each having just two towels each. And you could let them know, we just have two
Well,
towels
that's
each.
okay. So let's think about that. There's 2 bath towels each. That's 20. And
Yeah.
then there's a hand towel each. And then there's the washcloths.
Okay. Okay.
That's another 20.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah.
40 plus 10, that's 50. Then there's 10. I have more than 10 beach towels, but let's say 10 beach towels. That's, 60.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Well,
tend
and
to
then
provide a little too much, I think.
hopefully they'll be able to wash and dry and put the beach towels back, right? Because that could take those 10 off your list. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely I would say limit their access to the towels and have two sets as opposed to giving them full access. And then either they or you have to wash everything. Because, I mean, people will use whatever towel is there. If you give
No,
them each
yeah.
5 towels, they're going to use them all. They'll, the kids will grab a new towel every time they take a shower. So, if you can limit their access to towels, that might help your situation.
And then what do people do about blankets? It's a tough
So,
call, right?
right, yeah. So again, in my house, we have 3 sets of blankets. So every time we're switching out a blanket, we usually keep one folded in the closet. So if that one doesn't get used, it
Mm-hmm.
stays there. But if the blanket on the bed is used, then that gets pulled out and laundered. Some people do repeat the use of the blankets, but personally, we take them all out every time. So.
Yep. Okay.
And we
Okay.
have 5 bedrooms, so it's a lot. It's a lot of space. It's a lot of beds. So
Yeah, it is. It is. Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, it looks like we are just up to the full hour. So thanks everyone so much for joining us. And again, keep an eye out for that next email for the upcoming State of the State. And we'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.